All right, everybody. I see the cigar is lit and we're ready to go live today to talk about whatever you want to. I'm excited to be on with Bear from Bear Independent. How's it going?
I'm well, ma'am. How are you today?
No, I'm doing great. John Willis is here too. I heard you got sheep.
I
How's that
have
going?
sheep. I have sheep.
Well,
They're doing what we want them to do and not what they want to do. Whereas the day before, they were doing what they wanted to do and not what I wanted them to do. So I think we're good right now.
yeah. You got to watch out for small trees. If you have small trees and they get out, because those are tasty.
Small
they will eat
trees.
the crap
They
out
want
of
to go to
some
small
trees.
Got
Yeah,
it.
they'll get your saplings, especially if they're tasty ones like a peach tree or
There's a lot of those where they were.
yeah. Yeah.
Luckily,
We
luckily they're scared of the dogs still.
Mhm.
So they're on the upper paddock, and we got them in a 10x20 tractor. We're moving them twice a day to tall grass, and they're devastating that. So we're just moving them so they're never eating off the ground.
Awesome. We just introduced our sheep to livestock guardian dogs yesterday for the first time without any barriers. And it went way better than I thought it would because the whole time training this dogs, it's been a cluster. And yesterday, everybody got along. The dogs figured out what they were supposed to do. We came out this morning. They were all like snuggled up together. And I'm really happy about that because Tactical has been having to run back and forth to the sheep, which these are about 0.2 of a mile away from my house right now where they are. He's been having to run back and forth 4 or 5 times a day just because we're worried about predators, making sure the water, and we lock them up at night. So now they can be out on pasture and hopefully any coyotes that get near will be annihilated.
That's awesome.
Super awesome that you have enough property to keep them things 0.2 of a mile away. Awesome. You're only supposed to get one livestock guardian dog at a time. And when you get them same age, same litter, they want to do puppy things, not livestock things. And that's why we just added that other young female, because our older females will jump on her and put a beating on her as she's chasing chickens and things and wanting to do puppy things.
Yeah, that was a tough decision. We chose to get 2 because they had been raised by another LGD and had already killed a coyote together.
That's cool.
But yeah, it took a while to get them, or because they were goat dogs, it took them a while to decide that sheep were goats, and then once that happened, it looks like we're good to go. So okay, guys, in the comments, this conversation, we can talk about stuff all day long, right? But if there is something specific you want to hear about, throw your question in the comments. If you put the first word or 2 in all caps, I'll know you're not talking to each other and you're talking to us, and we will talk about what you want to talk about. That being said, what do y'all think of the latest state of our society? How's it looking? I had a funny thing happen I'll share with you in a little bit.
I think the window of opportunity for people to get prepared and to get self-reliant is closing. There was a much ado made about, especially age of COVID and all that, about what happens when they don't let us buy, they don't let us sell, they don't let us play in the system.
It's coming.
Valid questions. What happens when there's no system to play in? Or it doesn't matter how much money you have because it's worthless. Like, what matters is there's no bread at the store and you don't have a way to make more bread. I think that's coming, or we're closer to that than we have been in my lifetime. And that's not a great indicator as far as, the strength and virility of the economy and society as a whole. And we learned a lot during the Clinton administration, but we also learned it's the economy, stupid, and the economy is stupid. So not feeling great about the system, the world, feeling great about the homestead. And so there's a push-pull there. When you're suckling on the teat of the government and the teat runs dry, oh no, what do I do? When you make your own teats, it's good to go. So
the EBT system was supposed to be updated or rebooted, EBT SNAP system, on, I believe it was Friday late evening, Friday, Saturday, early morning. But that didn't exactly happen. For hundreds of thousands of people, it was off also on Saturday, from my understanding. Amanda, my wife, spoke to some people at Walmart and said, hey, what's going on with this? And she said, it's absolutely baffling that I am 60 years old and am still working after I've retired at Walmart, and my husband holds a job and runs a business. And we still are careful of how we spend our money and how we eat. But people who are getting money from the system are coming in here with $200, $400 shopping carts, and it's full of just junk food, and it's got steak and shrimp in here. And when you tell them, hey, we can't take EBT, they literally look at us like it's our fault, like we're doing this to them, and they literally want to put physical harm on us. And I said, you should have told her, just wait until the EBT system shuts off forever. Imagine what the world will look like. But I think, I mean, well, you know the deal, man. I am more worried about my government than local low caliber of persons, right? Because when low caliber persons come on here and we handle that in a method that we would like to handle that, the government wants to take us and make an example of us. So I loved what you said, and it's really stuck with me. And God, I hope you're right. They're not coming for you. They're just straight not coming. Like they're not coming to save you. They're also not coming. What that says is we handle problems in a manner that they should have been handled all from day one, and we wouldn't have the problems we have now. I love when you say 2 witnesses and a rock pile, right? If we could do that today, imagine how much better society would look when you walked out into it.
I agree completely. And I think that's going to happen, whether I want it to or not, whether you want it to or not, because it simply becomes a game of resources at some point. Right now, I live in a little podunk county, you know. I drove through a Class D city yesterday that had 2.5 times the amount of people as my county has in it, right? So I live in a little place. Now we have good law enforcement. We have good firefighters. We have good EMTs, paramedics. But they only have so much funding. Like the county only has so much funding. And so people are constantly saying, well, when SHTF happens, I'm like, dude, I think we're more in the frog in a pot of warm water than we are the frog's on fire and so's the house, right? It's not in one acute event. And that's what everybody's looking for, because we've been conditioned to look for those things by all these prepper novels and these TV shows and these movies. It's one event that wipes civilization off the map. It's like, historically speaking, that does happen. But historically speaking, what happens much more frequently is systems just devolve to the point where they don't work anymore. And then you have to make your own systems. And part of that system is a system of governance. Like, we know this guy is killing people. We're going to kill him before he kills anybody else. We know this person's a pedophile harming kids. Well, everybody flip with me to Deuteronomy. The prescription for this is the rock pile. You can tell me how sorry you are on your way to the rock pile where we will handle this problem. And that shit's going to fly in the country, out in the counties. It won't fly in the cities because of the population density in the cities. That won't be allowed to happen. There's still this affectation of civility that has to exist even in those places and has existed in the built up areas. You look at Egypt, right? Egypt was a farming agricultural society other than the built up areas. Look at England. In London, you're not just going to rock pile somebody to death, even a couple hundred years ago. But out in the country, what happens, right? And so it doesn't mean that they'll be complete without rule of law in the country. It doesn't mean that there won't be a system of accountability. There will be. But the delegation of authority will more quickly go back to the individual in places where there's already less governance than it will in places like the cities. There, the authority is a product of the legitimacy of the ruling class, and they're going to have to hold on to it because nobody produces resources there. So in order for them to be able to get the resources, they have to have some legitimacy, which means they have to maintain authority, which means they're not going to handle those. They're not going to allow you to handle those problems for yourself. They have to handle them for you. Sorry, I jumped in a rabbit hole there. I apologize.
So like the difference between a police department and a sheriff, right? If you have a good sheriff, it's very different than a police department in a city. And most cities have both still. But do you think with it, so let's fast forward to that happening, right? And they're not letting you take care of your problems in the city. Or make an example. Do you think that's going to push, are we going to push our criminals into the city? Or do you think you're going to see an influx come out of, I think we'll see an influx of them come out of the city because the free tit's going to be turned off. You know, they're going to take care of the the people that they want to take care of to hold the power?
I think it's both when it comes to criminality. And a big part of that is lines of drift. It's why people should understand what lines of drift are. If there's an exodus of people from a built-up area into a rural area, literally, where are you on the map? Where are they going to go? People tend to go downhill, not uphill, right? So that's something to think about, right? They tend to go towards water, not away from water. They tend to stick to well-established routes, aka roads that already exist, right? And so if you're in a valley next to a pond on a pretty major county road, you're on a line of drift. People are going to be there. And so if there is an exodus from the cities of well-intentioned people and criminals, a lot more of them are going to be walking past your house than if you live up on the top of a mountain somewhere away from, if your driveway's 3 miles long, made of gravel and rock, and there's no pond, river, stream next to you, you much lower down on the likelihood that you're going to have somebody drift into your position. So you're going to have fewer people to deal with. Now, I'm no expert on pretty much everything, including criminality, but it's commonly accepted that criminals hunt on their home turf. They operate where they're comfortable. Now, we have criminals in the country too. It's just a different kind of criminal. Right. Like the Bob gang, they got 2 pickup trucks and, 6 dudes who are high on meth most of the time, and they're robbing swine from this farm over here. Okay, that's still within our capability to handle. But if, the Irish mob showed up and started to run things in the country, different level of organization and capability, right? And so petty theft, petty crime, we already have that in the country. It's already dealt with in the country. You know how many times the sheriffs turn a blind eye to people getting what they had coming right now? A lot. And people miss that with law enforcement as well. Law enforcement officers have this really important thing called discretion. There's not a report unless we decide there to be a report. There's not involvement unless we decide that there needs to be involvement, right? And so if you have good rapport with your law enforcement and they have good discretion, a lot of times what happens in the country stays in the country already. But as far as criminals coming to the country, yes, I think so. Petty crime, until such a time, if it's a long event, that people then start to get organized, because chaos will not endure on a long enough timeline with SHTF, man. You're going to have to get organized, which is really people, land, resources. You need to organize those things in such a way that they're working in a system that produces rather than consumes. Criminals have that capability too. They already build networks. They already work together. They already know how to do that. So there probably will be an increase in criminality in the country. But not all the criminals are going to leave the city because they already understand how to be in the city. They have existing networks there. They have existing safe houses there. They have the infrastructure, the relationships. It's all already there. So like everything, they're going to have to get better at what they do, not worse. I think that's why a lot of people produce these SHTF videos, how to survive the first 90 days of Teotihuacan. It's like, bitch, that's the easy part, because all the dumb people are going to be getting killed off in the first 90 days. It's the guys who are still there after 90 days, 5 years, a decade and a half that you got to worry about, because they're good. They didn't stick around for a decade and a half because they're stupid. Right? The first 90 days is cakewalk.
I think the bigger part of them making those videos is because they all make those videos, because the guy yesterday made the video and they get the clicks, right? Yep. This is the end. This is the end. No, that was like, how many times can we recycle the same?
It's still the end. It's been the end.
Yeah.
If you think about how organized gangs work in the city, a lot of their success revolves around making examples of people and the reputation of violence, rather than having to do terrible things every single day. Not that they don't do terrible things, but there's a lot more head game there than people realize. And they don't have that head game when they leave their territory. They have to reestablish the head game. I think it's harder to instill the head game in the country just because we're all further apart. And some of us are more prepared to push that off. The head game can still happen here. We still have local criminal rings in our own counties way out here in the middle of nowhere. But the head game in the city is a totally different game.
Well,
things will change very quickly when law enforcement stops responding, right? When people's homes start getting set on fire, cops stop coming to work to defend their homes, and you have the big mob still going to the watering hole, which is Walmart, right? They're on the Serengeti Plain there. And I mean, you're seeing it all over the place on the news every day. I think the only thing holding society together for the most part is fear of punishment, right? We walk amongst people that would harm us on any given day for absolutely no reason. And it's a false sense of security. But when law enforcement says, hey, you just had the chief of police in Atlanta come out and go, hey, 911 can't help you. You better come up with a plan. So all of a sudden the mayor starts arresting all these gang members and these rappers over these crimes that they're talking about. But who is it they're protecting? They're protecting the $5 million homes in Buckhead and the movie stars and the actresses who have been home invaded. It's not to protect the population. It's to protect their rich friends. And you're going to see it happen. And when it does, it's going to be that little thread is lit, and it's going to start burning the whole shirt up faster and faster. And as soon as they come out and go, hey, we can't help you, that's just a signal. I mean, you're seeing whole flash mobs right now on whole city blocks in California and Washington and Oregon, where they're literally showing up like the Purge and just destroying these buildings and looting all these stores.
Yeah. And see, that's another beautiful thing about the country. What are you going to burn down, asshole? Like, there's no Neiman Marcus here.
Right.
Best of luck, you know?
Right.
And to Nicole's point earlier, what you were talking about is hard power versus soft power, right? The threat of violence, hard power, is often what keeps people in line. Just like what John's talking about, the threat of suffering the ramifications, hard power, is what keeps people in line, which gets you back to soft power, which is, you know, coercion, influence, etc. And so we're coerced and influenced to behave because we don't want to go to prison in handcuffs, generally speaking, right? People in gangs and criminal organizations are coerced and influenced to adhere to the rules, the structures of the organization, or there'll be internal hard power. Somebody might get, you know, removed, executed, whatever. And occasionally, when power structures bump up against one another, if the soft power, the influence and coercion, doesn't work, then we go to guns, hard power, right? That's why we use diplomacy first. That's why war is diplomacy continued by another means. It's the progression from soft power to hard power. Out here, if we progress to hard power and Billy Ray in his Chevy pickup truck with 5 of his buddies shows up and they'll get smoked with AKs at the end of the driveway, what psychological effect does that have? A hell of a lot. Hey, man, we probably shouldn't go down that driveway anymore. Now, it also opens up the opportunity for retaliation, but then how big's their network, right? At some point, you start getting in the brain of the other guy that it's simply not worth going over there. The juice is not worth the squeeze. You create your own little go and no-go zones, and you want to be a no-go zone for everybody else so that now you can rule your little fiefdom in the country and plant your potatoes in peace and harmony and look at the sunflowers and milk your goats and yada, yada, yada. And so there's this delicate balance with preparedness that we need the soft power. We need to be able to work together, influence and coerce one another positively, have that positive effect on one another. But then you also need the ability to project force, the hard power, that if somebody brushes up against you and they completely disrespect your soft power, cool, you got some teeth. You can do something about it.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that happened here about a decade and a half ago. And I had a neighbor who had a hair trigger temper and another set of neighbors who would ride their horses down the road. And one time they went up on his property when he wasn't home. He saw the footprints. And the next time they went down the road, he's screaming at them. They're screaming back. He pulls out a gun and just fires it into the ground. And then the guy and the horse ran off, came back with a shotgun, and we managed to dissipate the situation. 5 years after that, I'm sitting in the local bar. I tell people which road I'm on, and I hear, "Oh man, don't go down there. They're crazy. They'll shoot you." Mm-hmm. And I just thought, I know exactly. I like watched it happen, and that's not exactly what happened. But okay, I'll take that. I'd rather people just think, "Don't come down here."
Are they still there?
That person is gone. Yeah. So no.
So we have we have that reputation in our greater area. The reputation is, and I'm glad that we're here, that we have this reputation, is those really nice people you don't want to F with. I love that. We had somebody call the sheriff's department and said that there were men in the woods with machine guns, and could they go take a look? And it was on a training day. We don't have machine guns, but there's enough of us that we all start shooting at the same time. It sounds like one, right? And so I'm friends with the sheriff, and got a deputy telling me this, and he says to me, he says, "Hey, do you live over by such and such?" I said, "Yeah, that's me." He goes, yeah, we got a call about that." I said, "Well, what'd you tell him?" He said, "Ma'am."
Yeah, it froze. It'll unfreeze in a second.
I missed the punchline on that one.
None of my effing business. And frankly, that's none of your. Oh, did we cut out? So anyway, the sheriff's deputy told her that men in the woods with machine guns is none of his business. It's none of her business, and that she ought to try and be friends with those people. So, good reputation to have.
Yeah. They used to call all the time on James's range when they were running classes. Somebody new would move to the area, and it was always the machine gun thing constantly. Well, don't go over there because you're trespassing.
Yep.
Say hello to them when you see them in town,
Yep. The Iridium Group says hard power is of the better arguments for community, or is one of the better arguments for community over Lone Wolf SHTF. Yeah, Lone Wolf SHTF makes no sense to me, because how much can one person do?
One guy. I mean, but what are you going to do with your kid? I mean, are you going to lone wolf with your child? What if your child gets sick? I mean, how long is that going to last? There's plenty of woodsmen that can go out there and Davy Crockett out in the woods, but fuck, are you doing it right now? You're probably not going to want to do it then.
If they're watching this live stream, they're not doing it right now.
Right.
You're bushcrafting with your iPhone out in the wilderness. Okay, bud.
Yep.
Plant identification is very important when you're bushcrafting. Click.
Most of them won't. People are like, what are you going to do when people come and get you? When everything collapses, they're coming to your place. You won't even know how to get to my place. Your GPS doesn't work.
Yeah, GPS is down. Best of luck.
John, I'll let you know. I have a road atlas.
Yeah. Go try to find some road map. Like Thomas Books, I went to a bookstore to buy Thomas books for our areas and surrounding. They don't exist anymore. You can kind of get some laminated trifold, DeLorme or National Geographic maps, but man, the road maps aren't even present like they used to be. You really have to hunt for them.
I got mine on Amazon.
Right on. And
then I wrote down all the important places I might need to go in it, because I figure if I need to go there, I'm not going with my GPS.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an SOP for us in vehicles. Every vehicle has to have at a minimum maps of the state we're in and the states that touch the state we're in. But I like the big atlas as well. I got all 50 states. I can go wherever the hell I want to go.
Yep. Of course, you have to know how to read that map, and we have stopped teaching our children how to read maps. I think it's a really fun experiment when I go somewhere. How do I get there without GPS? I'll challenge myself to do that. If I get lost, I have GPS. It can bail me out, but knowing in advance, it's a good habit to get back into that I used to do before we had GPS. So,
I love that little bit of trepidation you get when you're like, I'm lost, I'm going to die. And the zombies are going to be like, oh shit, I know where I am now. I love that. I do that a lot as well.
Yeah. Mike Vertrees says there are maps at truck stops. I bet there are. That's actually,
you got to go to the back where the trucker stuff is.
Yep.
They're usually not sitting present up by the registers any longer.
And
they used to be in every grocery.
Yeah, like the welcome to the whatever state rest stops when you cross the state line. They'll usually have free maps of that state in there as well. And so you can pick one up, just grab them. They're free.
Yep. Then keep them filed. Roads change a little bit, but they don't change that quickly. And usually they're adding them, not eliminating them, although that just depends on your area.
Well, a lot of people can't even ascertain where north is anymore without a compass or the compass app on their phone. And that to me is kind of sad, but whatever. We're a product of our upbringing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I know where north is everywhere I go because I can just look around, know what time of day it is. There's the sun. Okay, I was traveling in this direction. There's north. Good. I can navigate with that. Is it as accurate as having like a Sunto map compass? No. Or a Carmanga? No, it's not. But I know where north is. I can move. I have a sister who I love. You ask her where north is, she points up. Because north is, up on the map. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's out, not up. So
yeah, something I thought would make a really good fundamental skills video series is the things about maps that people who had to use maps know, like odd numbers are not on the same side of the road as even numbers, how the highways are numbered in our country, and just all of these little things that that help you find things on a map that if you've never had to read a map, you have no idea. I watch young kids looking for a house number, not knowing if it's odd. You just keep looking on the odd side of the road, and they're looking both ways. And I'm thinking, well, you just needed to know that one little piece of information that apparently we don't teach anymore. So I think it'd be cool if somebody did that. I'm not going to do it. So just throwing that out there as an idea to a content creator.
Thank you.
How, like, those little things make a huge difference.
See, I don't have the production level for that to actually like do it well, because my production quality is horrendous intentionally, because I've got too much other shit to do than to like make really nice videos. I think I make good videos, but they're not great. Like if I had like a production team, and like a nice camera and a good microphone, they'd probably be a lot better, but I don't have the patience for that. And so I guess, John, it's on you. You got to make this video about maps.
So I make, if I have an idea and I don't make a video right then, if I even sit down and like, okay, I'm going to eat lunch and make a video, I've already lost it. Like that, that motivation, that wind is out of those sails. And if you give me a script, that's going to be the worst video you've ever seen. That's why I don't sit down when I do these videos. I'll literally put my head down here and go to sleep if I sit down. I have to move, and it's got to be real. It has to be genuine.
The 12:30 live will be of John Willis falling asleep.
Yep.
That would like catch everybody off guard. Like a live stream of you sleeping. Like,
yeah, you put me in a car and I don't have a computer in my lap, I'm asleep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's an SHTF indicator. If you're sleeping on camera, like take the helmet, put on the helmet. It's about to get bad. Yeah.
Well, that's one code. You got to have your codes in your underground networks.
That's a good passphrase. How's John? John's asleep. Oh shit,
Yeah, Autumn Dawn says we did orienteering with the Cub Scouts, so that's good. Yeah. That's really good, because it's funny. I feel like I'm becoming the old grumpy lady who's complaining about kids these days don't know how to do all these basic things that seem super necessary. And I remember when my grandma went through that phase. So I've become my grandma. But I just don't feel like a grandma yet.
But when I say kid, I mean 30-year-old person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean children. We can still teach the children, especially if they're around us. It's the children's parent. As far as map skills, man, we could run a 30-minute, hour-long map and compass course where you just go find some shit buried in an ammo can or whatever. That's totally easy to do. And once it's fun in the beginning, and once you know that, then it's something that just stays with you forever.
Maybe we should bury something really good at Self-Reliance Festival.
Hell yeah. I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Geocaching, right?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. That'd be fun. You should do that at the next Self-Reliance Fest. That'd be awesome. Put something cool in there.
Yeah. What would we put in there? That's the question.
You could just put ammo in the ammo can. That shit's like finding gold these days.
True story.
I'll throw in a couple 100 rounds in a bear fac. You just let me know. I love it.
I saw Permapastors was on here. I see Life Done Freeze on here. Hello guys, how are you?
Awesome. Yep. Permapastors is here.
Yep.
Yeah, Billy Bond. Billy Bond is in the house.
That's a good dude right there. When we were doing that expert panel at the last Self-Reliance Fest, he was standing next to me, and every time somebody would hand me the microphone, I'm like, what he said? Like he nailed it. Like, I agree with it, but I don't need to talk. Everything he said was 100% on point, and which was cool because like I never met this guy before in my life, and I'm like, this is like, it was like that Step Brothers moment. Like, did we just become best friends? They're like this is great, and it's super cool. That's why people should be going to that event and events like that, because a lot of times what we know is like the preparedness community is the people in the comments down below. It's like, no, there's actual real people. Like they have real names and they real jobs and real lives that think and feel and act the same way you do. And you need to start crossing paths with those people and forming relationships with those people, because you want as many of those people around you as possible when things get stupid. And it's like when GPS doesn't work, your friends on the live stream aren't going to work either. Like you need real people. And so it's worth the price of admission from a networking standpoint alone, to say nothing of the value that you're going to get from the presentations and the speakers and the ability to, just to be around your people. From a networking standpoint alone, it's cheap at twice the cost. So just encouraging everybody out there, go to the Self-Reliance Festival. I loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, we can't wait to drag you back there if we can fit it in your schedule. Guys, those tickets are at selfreliancefestival.com, and it's October 1st and 2nd. There'll be 500 to 900 of us in Camden, Tennessee. And Bear is right on. Like the networking, I think the networking is the most important part of any event you go to. And if that is not an important part of the event you're going to, I don't know why you're going. Because your relationships are your stability. Your relationship savings account from a preparedness standpoint is one of the most important things you can have. Like imagine you've worked all along to have your homestead set up so you're producing food and you've got your systems in order. There are two of you and one of you falls off a ladder and breaks a leg.
Yeah.
If you don't have friends nearby, it's now down to one person in your family dealing with everything, and producing food is a physical activity. It's not, it's not chump change. You're going to be outside in the hot, in the cold, running up and down hills. And if there's only one of you doing that, you're doing twice the work. But what I've seen happen in our communities is when somebody has something like that, people will they'll do a schedule and they'll rotate through and they'll help you out. And, like I think it was about this time last year that I was raising 40 turkeys because a good friend of mine became terminally ill, and he had just gotten turkeys, and he was like, "Can you please take these turkeys?" And I said, "Yeah." And then we raised them. John, you and Amanda were at the turkey processing class where we show people how to process them, but they just could not keep up with their livestock with that scale of an issue going on. So any way you can expand your relationships is important.
Well, one of the people miss too is they think like, if I'm one person, I can do X amount of work. If I'm two people, I can do 2X. Negative. You can do 3 to 4X with 2 people. 5 people doesn't do 5X. 5 people does 10 to 15X. 20 people doesn't do 20X. 20 people does 100X the amount of work that one person does. And so it's not a linear progression in capability. It's an exponential progression in capability. And if you don't have people, if you don't work with people, if you don't work on teams or run teams, you miss that point. Like, people are incredibly important for all the reasons, but just from a production standpoint, like Nicole was talking about regarding workload, we got to get stuff done. 2 people is not 2X. 2 people is 3 or 4X. Mm-hmm. 5 people is 15X, because now we're working together. You gain a lot of efficiencies, you lose a lot of inefficiencies when we work together, or you diversify so that now you're developing subject matter experts on each thing. It's going to take me 4 times longer to go in the garden and plant potatoes than it is this awesome young lady that we have who's part of our tribe, who she lives for gardening, right? I can do potato stuff. I've done potato stuff. I'm much better off letting her handle it. She's better at potato stuff. When it comes time to do hood rat shit, she's much better off letting me do the hood rat shit than her go and do it. Like, can she run an AR and nods? Yes, she knows how. Is it the best use of her time? No, it's not. And so the diversification there, when you get a critical mass of people, is what allows you to discover those efficiencies, and it fulfills everybody's sense of purpose. If you're the potato lady, mazel tov, be the potato lady. That shit's badass. We need all the potatoes we can get. And then you hear from people, it's like, well, man, I don't know much. All I know how to do is plant corn. Awesome. How much corn are we going to plant? Like, how can I empower you to plant so much corn that we don't know what to do with it? Like, that's not nothing. And we don't give ourselves enough credit, and we don't give the team enough credit, generally speaking, in society. Like, you need people, and it's an exponential growth, not a linear growth.
Yeah, and don't underestimate that the negative impact of not being upfront about what your skills are and thinking, oh, it's nothing, I just know how to sew clothes or whatever it is. If we don't know you can do that, we don't know we can tap into it, and it becomes a much more powerful symbiotic relationship when we know what you don't think is a big deal.
And you better find that shit out now. Like, if you think some people are just going to show up and be, hey, this guy's got a place where we're going to plant a bunch of potatoes and corn. If they're not working now and you guys can't get together and do something now, don't be fooled that when it's time and it's necessary. What I was saying is you better figure that stuff out now.
Yeah.
Like, Bear, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Sound?
He may not have sound. He may have to log back in. So that's okay. I can let him back in. Keep going, John. I'm sure this will resolve itself. Well, he's muted. So
do we have him muted, or is he muted?
I don't know if I have him. Nope, it won't let me. He has to unmute himself. So there you are.
Okay,
You're back.
can you hear us?
No,
Can you hear
can't
us?
hear us.
It's the elves. It's
Log out, log in.
The wizard militia elves coming for me. Sorry.
So what I was
that.
saying is we better figure that shit out now, right? You better get your people together now and plant some corn. Just because you're the dude that's got a place where we can put some corn and potatoes, don't just think some people are going to show up to help you plant those corn and potatoes. You better know now. Number one, they probably can't get there. And if they're not willing to do it while the air conditioning's working inside and we have a fridge full of food, they're not just going to stand up and do what needs to be done because the hard times come. You need to sift that out of there now. Those people that are lazy now, they're going to be lazy then. The guy who won't work out right now and get his physical fitness in shape, he's not just going to shrink because of lack of calories. He's not going to have, when he starts losing those calories, he is not going to have the energy to do the physical stuff that has to be done.
Yep. I see Raincat says our gardens did poorly this year, giving it a second try for fall. Yes, this was a difficult year for a lot of us. I really lucked out because I love green beans and we're trying to get 50 quarts canned by the end of the year. I am down to 12 left. I planted green beans once a week once I saw what the weather pattern was doing, under the hopes that some of them would actually make it through. And I am just now starting to get happy, healthy ones because we just got scorched in June and it completely screwed up those plants. So when you have a bad garden year, if you keep planting things, sometimes they pop up at weird times and start doing well. And you will not know that if you are not practicing gardening all the time. You don't just start gardening your first year and it's a huge success the first time you ever tried. And it's a good thing because I really needed that food.
So my bush beans died out in the heat, turned brown in the pod, right? Fell off into the ground. Now that it's cool, there's a ton more beans, and those beans that fell off are growing new bush beans now.
Oh, cool.
My garden did terrible this year compared to last year, and I used all the same inputs in addition to extra fertilizer in the form of rabbit, poop. So in theory, it should have been better, but we're hearing all kinds of, like, there's shit in the air. They're putting a different type of chlorine in the water that doesn't off gas. You're hearing all kinds of stuff.
It's been a rough year for gardens, us too. We got absolutely drenched in the spring. Like, it rained nonstop for 6 weeks, and then it didn't rain at all for months and got super duper hot. And so everything died. We planted probably 30 trees and bushes
Yep.
Fruit trees, berry bushes, all but a handful are dead. We'll see. Maybe they'll come back in the spring, but they're either dead or dormant right now. Potato towers were an abomination. They did terrible. But our hot peppers and our sweet peppers did great, right? Earlier in the year, the salad greens and the brassicas, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, stuff like that, did great. But the end of spring into early summer, horrendous. And you don't get a summer garden in Oklahoma. You just get weeds because everything dies off. And so hopefully come fall, we'll be good to go again. And but it's a pattern. You're hearing this from everybody who's been planting food. It's been a terrible year for growing food, not just for commercial growers, commercial operations, but even mom and pop farm stands and the homesteaders and the backyard enthusiasts. Everybody's having a bad year. People have been asking me, well, what do we do if this happens in SHTF? Like, well, we're in SHTF and it just happened. So what do? You plant more and you have resilience. You need a backstock. When I was growing up, we had a 1 acre garden for the household. And then we had a second 1 acre garden. There was nothing but cilantro, jalapenos, and tomatoes, and a few occasional Scotch bonnets. My dad's name was Sam. And one of the many things we did on the side to make a couple bucks is we sold Sam's salsa in mason jars, right? And they're like $5 a jar, which back in the day, that was high, right? For a pint of salsa, that was high. But we made salsa off of a 1 acre garden all the time, always. There's always a batch of salsa that had to be made every year. And it was like a week-long, marathon of all the kids, pressure canning and cooking salsa and picking and peeling. But that other 1 acre garden, some years out of that 1 acre garden, we had so much food that we were literally giving away, 6 months worth of food to multiple different families in the community because we couldn't pressure can or water bath can enough of it fast enough or freeze enough of it fast enough. We had to give it away or it would spoil. Other years, it was just barely enough. And so in a lean year, an acre garden for that size family is just barely enough. On a bumper crop year, it's enough for 5 or 6 families. And so you don't plan for best case scenarios. You plan for worst case scenarios. And then if you have an excess, if you've been blessed with the work of your hands, awesome. Thank God. Literally. What do? Well, there's a biblical prescription for that as well. It's called throw a party. You throw a party and feed everybody. And you go, thank God we have all this food. How do you feel about spaghetti squash? Because I've got literal tons of it. Right. And so you don't plan for the best. You plan for the worst and then hope for the best. Bigger gardens, more attention, more diversification, But
Watering
it's been a wholesale slaughter across the nation growing food this year.
Yeah, everybody. I haven't heard anybody say, well, it's been an unusually good garden year in our area. Nobody. I can't even grow grass for the sheep fast enough. Like, we're lucky my neighbor let us use his land. We would have been totally screwed with these sheep on just my property. But Teresa said sauerkraut, and that stands out, right? Because you saw, Nicole, our cabbages did awesome early. Yeah. And something else to be spoken for is a row house. If you have a row house, you control what falls on the row house, right? So even if somebody did come over and spray with, say, a plane or something, maybe it doesn't come through the doors, or maybe that soil's not contaminated and you can continue to grow. It's also an extender, right? You can start early and you can run late. So when it's getting cold out and it's going to be too cold, you can still plant some things that'll come up 3, 4, 5 weeks ahead, and you can move those. Like, most of my stuff is not in the ground. We use the carts and we can roll them right into the greenhouse. But when we built the greenhouse, we made our door open enough that we can move it in with the skid steer. We can take 2 guys and carry them, but we design everything. We're going to use all the technology we can. And as pieces remove, we have a plan for that. Like we can put 2 poles through those things and carry them like the Ark of the Covenant if we have to, right into the row house.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Something that's been weird for me this year as the person on this live stream who does the preservation of the foods from the garden. In past years, things go bad before I can get them preserved and given away, and they go into the compost. I have barely fed the pigs any surplus. I have barely put anything in the compost, and never before have I processed 2 jars of something at one time. There's always 4 to 7 jars, which is a batch. And this year, because it was so bad, I thought I'm just going to waste the resource and do the 2 jars, because then we will have those in the winter. And that's been the only way I've been able to get the deep pantry back to where it needs to be. So it's been a weird year for sure.
I saw a lot of comments in here early on. People saying, you know, I'm 60 and people overlook me. I still have a lot of ability and use. Where do you use your and I don't want to say elderly, right? I had a man come on the property here the other day that was 87, and I would have told you he wasn't 60. I had a dude come in here. I don't know how old he is. I'm guessing he's 65, 70, volunteering to come in here and work a couple hours taking care of the animals. I don't have no 20-year-olds walking in here volunteering to work, right? Hey, I'll come work for you. I need $25 an hour. Yeah, that's not a 25 an hour job. So where do you use your people at, you know, that are 55, 60, 75? Maybe they're not working. Where are you using them, and how would you utilize them?
So one of the beautiful things about a tribe is that I don't know everything, nor do I want to know everything. I'm not capable of that, right? And then everybody has different giftings and talents and delights. I can tell you the person that has the best garden that I know of the hundreds of people that I fellowship with, is Grandma, who lives a few hundred yards that way, who's 83 years old, and she's kicking everybody's ass with her garden. Everybody. And because she's had so much, she's got 80 years of experience working in a garden, right? She's out there first thing in the morning, weeding and hoeing and rowing, and the very end of the day. Like, unlike my dumb ass is out there, oh, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, time to go work on the garden, you know, go get heat stroke, right? And so there's smart ways to work, like work early in the morning, later in the day when it's hot, right? For all of us. But Grandma has that. She's a subject matter expert on how to work in a garden. That's not nothing. It matters, right? She's also a subject matter expert on how to raise kids, how to keep a 5-year-old entertained, how to make food, how to make a delicious meal out of nothing. Like we had black-eyed peas the last time we were up there, and Grandma was telling us, because they grew up poor, at one point she remembers there was one winter that her and Mama and Daddy and her 9 siblings living in a 1-room house in Mississippi, that the 10 of them ate nothing but black-eyed peas and cornbread all winter, unless Daddy could find something to hunt or trap or catch. And so she didn't eat black-eyed peas for a while. You know, people talk all the time about, you know, food boredom. It's a major thing with preparedness, food boredom. It's like, Grandma's still here and she ate black-eyed peas for 4 months. And so I think we over-accentuate that stuff. But she made black-eyed peas for dinner with homemade biscuits and cornbread, and it was freaking phenomenal. And would she have a couple of dollars into that meal, fed a house full of people with it? So she understands how to do that kind of stuff. And so it gets back around to underestimating oneself, like we were talking about earlier. It's a really good exercise to sit down and itemize what your skills are. What do you know how to do? And then rate them. I'm an expert at these things. I have a moderate level knowledge and understanding of these things, amateur level. And then here's my gaps. I don't know anything about these things at all, but I want to, right? Well, where should you be focusing? It's the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. A lot of people say, man, you really need to firm up those gaps. What if I don't want to? I know how to make a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. I'm, dare I say, even acceptable at it. I could give 2 shits about Microsoft Excel. I'm better off finding somebody who's a Microsoft Excel wizard and saying, I need you to figure this stuff out, make me an awesome P&L statement. I'm going to be over here doing what I do so that there's numbers to input into the Excel sheet, right? And so it's, what are your giftings, talents, and delights? Itemize those things. And then when you you're dating each other, falling in love with people, when you're networking and doing all this stuff, it's like, because it's always kind of an interview process. It's always kind of a selection process. It's like, cool, what do you know how to do? Well, I'm a technician, ham radio operator, and I'm an amateur armorer on, you know, the AR-15 style of rifle. I also understand a bit about logistics, and I'm pretty good at vehicle maintenance, especially with diesel engines. It's like, awesome. That's that. But I'm too old to shoulder a rifle and carry a rucksack. Cool. We'll let the military age males do that, you know, because they don't know shit but how to shoulder a rifle and carry a rucksack, because we haven't had a chance to teach them yet, right? And so don't underestimate your own capabilities. Itemize the capabilities that you have. And then if you were to draw like a Venn diagram, like the overlapping circles, what do I like to do, right?
And we lost him.
Back.
He will be back. We'll go back to the Venn diagram when he gets here. The thing this makes me think of, because I think the original objection was I'm really worried about community because I'm a single 60-year-old female. I was telling John, because I'm 50, so I was telling John a little while ago, I think it was last week or the week before last, I have had more women in really close to my age, so plus or minus 5 years of my age, start homesteading by themselves. I don't know what it is about our year range, and I don't know if it's just because that's my age and people are attracted to me, women are attracted to me because there's another woman doing it, but I don't do it alone, and I don't think anybody has to count on doing it alone. And if you're 60, there's a lot of life, you can do a lot. I watch my mom, who is over 70, helps me with Self-Reliance Festival. That's Mama Sauce. Does she work hard, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think she does more than I do.
I think a lot of that is because at our age, I'm also 50, we're kind of set in our ways, right? We don't have time to find somebody and convince them to come out to the country, sell our houses or whatever. We're going to do our thing and hope they show up. And they're just not there, right? And you have all those women coming to you because you're a woman. They're definitely not going to come to me because I'm going to be like, harden the fuck up. What's your problem? Right? They don't want what I have to give them.
I'm like, this is how you can do a garden without all the hard physical work. I figured it out.
I can take the dude that you want to find someday and kind of put him on that path. Maybe we should start like a dating service or something.
Hell yes. Hell yes. You know how many times I've heard that? Like preppersonly.com has to happen. Like,
right. And there needs to be proof of it, right? You have to, that's the whole thing with these events, right? Every 4 months, I've got a ton of people that are going to come here and they expect it to look different, improved, not deteriorated, right? So I don't have any choice. Not that I would do it differently, but I think that you really need to go and see it for yourself, because it's very easily to manipulate a little piece of the corner through the lens of a camera.
Oh, for sure. That happens all the time. Like, point it this way, don't point it that way.
Yeah.
Right. Cut that out. Don't have that part in there.
Yeah. I want them to see this. Definitely don't point the camera over here, because all I've been doing is prepping this as a backdrop for all my cool videos. I saw Sandy said in the comments, she's 50 and her divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago and she's just starting out. Good job, just starting out. One of the things that I see, so a bit of advice, one of the things that I see a lot from people is that they dive in, with both feet, super enthusiastic. Then they immediately get overwhelmed because they tried to start all these different systems and projects at the same time, and they don't have a system in place to maintain all those different projects. They get overwhelmed and then they get disheartened and then they quit. I've known a lot of people that were homesteaders for a year or less because they tried to do too much too soon. And so kind of my basic advice there is, like, if you're going to, move out of the city or the suburbs onto a piece of land, whether it's a big piece or a little piece or whatever, you're going to come out into the country and start doing this stuff, is get one system in place at a time. And, amateurs train till they get it right. Experts train until they can't get it wrong. Right. And so if you're going to do chickens, figure out a system that works for you for chickens. and get your chickens to where you don't have to think about it anymore. It's automaticity. You just do it. You wake up, you do your chores, it's handled. And you're not falling over yourself in the hell, where did I put the garden hose again? And I got to go fill it. Like, you work out all the wrinkles with chickens, and then you're going to do a garden. Okay, maybe start with a few raised beds, get them going, because you're adding workload to the chickens that you have, right? And then it grows from there to the cows and the turkeys and the sheep and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I have my morning chores down where I touch every piece of property that my property that I need to touch every morning in less than 20 minutes. It's usually about 17 minutes, and that it's all handled for the day. It's all handled. And that way it's not overwhelming, because if it takes me 3 hours a day to do it, sooner or later I start hating to do it, or it's cold, or it's rainy, or I've got the flu and I don't feel like doing it. And if you have good systems in place, because a lot of people, what they don't realize when they move to the country and they start up a little homestead, a little farmstead, is you're now married to that thing. Oh, you want to go on vacation? You want to go to Self-Reliance Festival? Who's going to feed the goats? If you have a good system in place that you can articulate to somebody who's your friend, back to networking, hey, I'm going to be out of town for 3 days. The goat feed is in this bin. They get 1 scoop every morning. Please make sure that they have access to grass and or hay, and that there's water in the water tank. That's easy. That's a 5-minute conversation with a friend. It's 15 minutes of their day for 3 days. No big deal. But if you have a 3-hour, 4-hour burden of stuff that has to happen every day on your homestead just to make sure that nothing dies, you're going to get tired of it, and nobody's going to want to help you with it. So start small, then grow.
That was the one I was going to go to was, you start all these things and then you're sick and you literally can't get out of bed for a couple of days. Your stuff, you'll have dead animals after a couple of days. So that's a big part of it. And I see a lot of people saying, I'm dismissed because I'm 60 or this or that. Like, if you show them your value, most people, if they show up, if they drive home, or they wake up in the morning and go out and you're out there caring for their animals, they're probably not going to just go to guns. They're going to be like, what are you doing? I just wanted to show you my value. I want to be a part of what you're doing. If a dude came in here and he's like, I want to work for you, he couldn't get, but you got dogs, right? I can't get through the gates. If I came up here and you pulled a pile of weeds, you would have my attention, right? If you did something, just anything, like, you can get people's attention. Don't let them dismiss you because you feel like you're 60 years old and they're dismissing you. Hey, I can do these things. But saying it is one thing. Demonstrating it is another. Don't ask. It's allowed versus able a lot of times. They can still tell you to go, but at least you actually gave it a real effort.
The other thing is, you might be talking to the wrong people if out of the chute, because you're 60 or you look 60, you're not worth anything, because that's not valuing the benefits that can come from wisdom and the benefits that can come from knowledge. It's that may not be the right network. And you may need to look for more different people who understand that a community has many different moving pieces and different talents at different ages that complement each other.
Somebody has to be the sage. The sage of life, the sage. Your job is to encourage and instruct the people around you. You've seen a different part of the path than they have. And so when they're walking on the path and they're about to fall off and break their leg, you can go, hey, come here. Let me talk to you a minute. I went through this one time. This is how I handled it. You should do it this way. A lot of people come to me and they're like, Bear, how do you know so much, Bear? I'm like, A, I do shit and I learn by doing. And B, I've always sought out mentors. If there's somebody that knows more than I do about something that I want to know about, I'm going to find that person and I'm going to get into their good graces and then make myself indisposable to that person so that they see fit to then pour out their knowledge on me. Maybe we'll go with like your typical military age male stuff, right? Like, you're going to learn patrolling. Okay. I have like four former Special Forces Green Berets as mentors, 4 of them. None of them are military age males anymore. You talk about 60 years old and no value. These guys know more stuff about that than I could ever hope to know. They're going to teach me. They're not going to go do a 5-day foot movement with me, but they're going to teach me what I need to know to go make my own mistakes while I do that 5-day foot movement, come back, debrief me and go, so what did you learn, son? Cool. There's an infinite amount of knowledge in that. Somebody has to be the sage. And it doesn't mean the sage isn't shelling beans while they're sitting there talking to you either, or pulling weeds while they're sitting there talking to you either. And so that expectation as to what is it that you're going to do while you're here, like you have to modulate that based upon somebody's capability. And capability and buy-in are two different things. Just because somebody has a different capability than what you have doesn't mean they're not as bought in as you are. Them giving it their all can look different than you giving it your all, right? We were talking earlier about, like, if we ever see John asleep on camera, that's an SHTF indicator, right? Because, like, he's go, 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 right? Like, you've got that muscle. You've figured out your system. How do you go, 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 go? Some people aren't that way, right? They have to go for a bit, stop, regroup, reset, then go.
Yeah, and people who do the...
It doesn't...
Roll back 20 seconds.
Yeah. We got him. I think it finally came through.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. I work with somebody here who does best hard push, break, hard push, break. I'm more like, I'm just going to keep at my pace and go, because if I stop, then it's over. And it took me a while to learn how to work with that person, because I'm like, why are you sitting around? But then the amount of work they get done in the sprints is a lot. So sometimes it's the same with animals. As my dogs get older, they're creakier, right? But they're putting in the same heart and effort to do things I ask them to do. If they're doing it a little slower, I can't get mad at them. It's the reality of their physicality at that point. So Michael says, somebody needs to make my favorite thing in the world, big, heavy winter quilts. I know several people who do stuff like that in our network.
We met two ladies a couple of weeks ago. We walked into an independent fabric store, which you never see anymore, and they had two giant quilting machines in there. And they were in there. I think they're actually coming out to Self-Reliance Festival. One of them was a photographer for John Deere, and she stopped doing that and was doing homesteading stuff and just does that fabric store part-time. Nicole, do you remember how long I said it takes me to take care of all the animals and everything on the property? Do you remember what that number was?
I don't remember, like 12 minutes?
It's 17 minutes.
17.
Bear's at 20, we're at 17. I can do everything to keep everything alive for 17. Yeah. But really, to make progress and move forward, I need an hour.
Yep.
Yeah, so in order to do my chores with the animals in 15, and this does not currently count the sheep, but it will. But it would take 15. I have to start at the top of my property, do everything linear on the way down, and I can get that done. In order for that to happen, food has to be staged near the animals who are getting food. And that staging does take time at other times of the day, but we do have it set up so that frugality of time is there. It doesn't mean that's all you do all the time every day, because eventually we have to move feed places and we have to make sure water is automated and check plumbing and all of these other things. So I'm actually talking about that on a training that Live Free Academy is doing, homesteading on a budget on Saturday. I'm going to talk about frugality of time versus saving a buck on. It's like sometimes it's better to spend the money on automation to make your life easier. Nick Ferguson lost 1,000 trees years ago because he's like, I can just water it. And then they had the worst flu go through the whole family. They could barely get out of bed. And he was like, they're just going to die. We cannot physically get out there to water them. And ever since then, when he's talking about new homestead setup, he's like, so how can you automate your water in that one place where you have to have the water?
Yeah. I use like Rubbermaid trash cans, the brute force ones, and we stage feed everywhere. I could do the chores faster if we didn't have to move the cages, the rabbit tractors, but I could do it faster by using pelletized feed. And everything in the last 2 years on the property has been getting set up to not have to use pelletized feed should that come. That's what all the swales are about. That's what the fodder trees are about. That's what stop cutting the grass is all about. And it takes a little longer, but if the time comes when I'm not getting pelletized feed, we probably have a lot of free time for that shit.
Yep.
That is the other part.
Well, and
if you know how to grow vegetables and you don't have to do anything else, you're going to grow vegetables way better than you're doing it in between working.
Nicole, you make a really good point about efficiencies, right? A lot of people see that the dollar that they're going to spend to automate something to get some of that time back, they see that as an expense rather than an investment, without realizing the most precious commodity that one has is their time. If I'm using less of my time to do something that's not a good use of my time, or I'm using more of my time because I'm being inefficient at it, that's time that I'm not earning or being productive somewhere else. How much money could I have made doing something else in that time? It takes me 20 minutes to do my animal.
That's it exactly. Do we have them back? That's it exactly. I mean, I look at every task I do as what's it cost per hour, and then break it into what's it cost per minute. And if you're not doing that, and a lot of people are like, well, I only make this much an hour. Well, there are a lot of options. That's a whole different conversation. But my time is too expensive, and I think that's a lot of it. Also, if you don't know what you can do it in, how do you know how much time it should take the guy you're paying to do that? And we break everything. I know what it costs per minute to do everything that we do.
Yeah, I'm not that good. I have more of an idea of how much it costs per hour here, but I think that's a great way to look at things, John. And I think people underestimate the other part that I will talk about on Saturday is, as much as you hate tracking things, track things, whether you are outsourcing the tracking of things or not. If you do not know what you have invested per pound of meat of sheep that you are producing, and you don't have an idea of how many hours of your time that took, how can you make a decision about how to price the meat if you're selling it? How can you make the decision about if it's more valuable to do that or buy $18 a pound lamb at the store?
And that, I think a lot of people too, when they're coming up with that price, they don't even put their time in there. What I was saying was, I need to know what everything costs per hour, and then I need to know what it costs per minute to achieve that task. And people who don't run businesses typically have no idea. But if I don't know what it takes and what it costs per minute to do that job, how do I know if the guys I'm paying to do it are doing it? Like, is that an employee we keep? How do you know what level they're at, and then how to compensate them as well?
Yep. On the coffee side, I have to know how many pounds per minute we are producing after it comes off the roaster to be able to figure out what it costs per pound to produce that coffee. That's something that because I've added somebody to the business, I had to get her tracking that. It took me like 3 times. I'm like, no, this is why. I need you to tell me how many pounds you did at the end of your shift so I can calculate what we're really putting into these coffees, because otherwise we start losing money if we don't track that. And losing money makes you go out of business.
Yeah. A business that doesn't make money is a hobby. Businesses earn money. If they don't, they can't stay in business.
Okay, we got a question for you, Bear. Are you going to be at the Midwest meetup? I don't know what that is, but somebody thinks you might know what the Midwest meetup is, and it looks like you're frozen on your water bottle, so hopefully you've heard that question, and when you come back, you can answer it. If not, I'll bring it back up. Yeah, so the NSA is filtering Bear Independent out from our live stream. Obviously, they do not like him today.
I used to joke about that. And I would be like, oh, you hear all those clicks and those buzzes on those phone lines. Our phones are tapped. Well, come to find out, our phones were tapped. 17 of our phone lines were tapped when they unsealed my indictment, right? So while we joke about the NSA filtering out Bear, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, sometimes it feels like when we're just getting to the most important point, that's when that stuff goes. But that is what it is. Viking meetup. It must be a Viking meetup. Yeah.
I see Rebecca's on here, commented quite a few times.
Yes.
Can't wait to see you, Rebecca. Rebecca does video on a high scale.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Go up to an event with 6 cameras and stream it out to 10 different platforms and manage all of that. Hello.
Well, I'm just really sorry that the internet's being stupid today.
We've just decided the NSA doesn't want you to share your message with the world today.
I think I'm going to watch Suspicious Observers after this and find out if there's like a solar flare smacking into the earth or
So
something.
there's tons. There are huge solar flares hitting the earth right now. My cell service, it took 2 hours to load up a 10-minute video on Instagram the other morning, and I'm inside the building with Wi-Fi. So the whole thing's been a mess for weeks.
Well, that probably explains it. It's either that or the militia warlocks that are trying to get me again. So whatever.
Somebody was asking if you're going to be at a Midwest meetup, and then somebody said there's a.
I think that's the one that our friends from EMP Shield are having the same weekend as Self-Reliance Festival, which if you cannot come to Self-Reliance Festival and you're in their area, I think it's in Kansas. I'm actually getting the information today because we're going to help them cross promote that. Definitely check that out. The reason we are cross promoting is because the more meetups we have, like Self-Reliance Festival, like the Midwest meetup, like anything where we are networking, the better we are. And so I think it's really important to get to some of these things, and cross promotion, I think, helps get us there. We have Back to the Land Festival the week before Self-Reliance Festival, right close to you, John. And that's another one that people can go to and meet people in the area or not in the area who have shared interests, who may become the connection they need when they need to figure out how to transport, fresh roasted hollow roast coffee from here to Oklahoma, for example, and the postal system isn't working.
So I won't be at that. It's unfortunate, but I can't. And I have been inspired, though, honestly. When I got back from the Self-Reliance Festival, last time I was out there, I got together with my team at the following Tuesday executive meeting. And I was like, hey, we're going to do an event. They're like, okay, cool story, boss. I was like, no, we're actually going to do one. And so we're in the process of figuring out what that looks like, but it's probably going to be at Refuge Medical Headquarters. And I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but it's going to be people can get together. We're going to do preparedness stuff. I'll probably kill a sheep. We'll spin it over a fire. We'll eat that dude. It'll be a good time just to let people touch antennas, right? Just like what you guys are doing. We'll probably have some workshops, some people talking, just let people touch antennas, because it's the other thing that I think a lot of people are vaguely aware of, but from an industry insider standpoint, the concept of preparedness is growing, and there's more and more people who are interested in preparedness and homesteading and getting self-reliant, because you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to take a look at what's going on in the world to figure out, this shit's kind of unsustainable. I don't think I want to be a part of that anymore. I should probably do something for myself. And so there's lots and lots and lots of people waking up to the idea that they need to take some personal responsibility and do stuff. And so the more of that can be facilitated, the better. Yeah,
that actually brings me to the story I wanted to share with y'all. I got a text message from a good friend of mine from the public policy world. Haven't talked to the guy since 2019, but he's a friend. It's one of those friends who can go away and come back, and we're still friends, and there's no hard feelings. And the text message, this is like urban, suburban, yuppie, down to earth, but that's the lifestyle he lives. He likes his purple mattress, and he likes to buy things at nice grocery stores and go out to eat and do city things. And he said, so can I put this, I have a baby chick and 6 ducks. Can I put them together for the night, or will the ducks kill the chick? Oh, by the way, I just got a 10-acre farm. And that got my attention. And I was like, well, I wouldn't actually put the little baby chick with the ducks. And usually more than one chick needs to go together. And he said, well, there were 4, but my dog ate 3. And then so I started asking him, what are you doing? And he has just bought this piece of land. He's going out there. They're going to start growing food and all of those things. And I said, are you doing this because you're interested in the farming adventure, or you're scared about what's happening out there in the world? He's like, yeah, stuff's getting bad, Nicole. And so when you see people who go from that to the other that quickly, it means that the awareness is penetrating beyond our immediate network, and that's a good thing that he is taking action now. This is why the concept I've been pushing so hard of homesteader boot camp. If you have a homestead and it's working, offer boot camps that people like that person can come to for 2 or 3 days, shadow you, show them how to do all the stuff you're doing so they can see how your systems are set up. So they don't have to go through the first 5 years that many of us went through where we were like, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to try something and hate my life until I figure out how to not hate my life. We can help each other do that, and it can help you on your homestead.
Think about too, right? So when things get bad, I'll leave the cities. You guys just went through all that COVID bullshit and didn't leave the cities. Not you guys, but the other people, right? Now you've got New York telling New Yorkers, hey, get on a bus and go to Florida. You're not welcome here. One step closer. Like, you're going to get to a point where there is no rural land to go to because we bought it already, or you're going to get to the point where they won't let you out. I mean, California, sooner or later, they'll put a damn wall up and go, you can't leave California. They're already taxing your income 8 years once you leave the state of California.
That's insane.
Yeah, I can't imagine somebody paying it, but they're trying it, right? So for everybody that's like, I can't leave, you might be right. It might be in the near future that you actually can't leave.
Yep. And there are a lot of people, Paul Wheaton is doing a homestead boot camp like thing. It's a permaculture boot camp. A lot of people are starting to offer that. Take advantage of that. If you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, go find out what you're doing. And maybe you'll think, I want that. And I don't want this other thing. That shortcuts all of the mistakes. Like, we are selling the pigs right now. I don't want to raise pigs. I don't like raising pigs. I like the pigs, and they eat a lot of compost, and that helps us with an issue, right? With a surplus issue. But it turns out I'd rather not raise pigs. I would rather raise sheep. So somebody else will love raising pigs, and they can buy my pigs.
Bear will agree with you.
I'm sure Bear will totally agree with me for many reasons.
Sheep have an interesting smell to them. It's a unique smell. Sheep shit smells different than any other, and I don't know why. They're eating the same inputs, but it does smell different.
Yeah, so it's the Midwest Preparedness Festival in Perry, Kansas. Life Done Free just put it up there. So definitely check that out, guys, in the Kansas and Midwest area.
Awesome.
What were you going to say, Bear?
I was just saying sheep are freaking tasty as well.
We had sheep for lunch today.
I love them. My wife loves them too, but I'll go out there, and if they'll let me, I'll pet them. Like, especially my ram. Me and him are tight.
Yeah. His
name's Jose, after Jose Cuervo. But long story. But anyway, like, he'll come right up to me, and they put their head down and they want to nudge on you. So I'll just put my hand out and just rub his head and rub where his horns would be and nuzzle on him. And we're bros, right? Like, we hang out every day. And she's always like, man, you were petting the sheep. I can smell him on you. Yeah, he smells like a wet wool blanket because that's what he is. He's a wet wool blanket. But I guess it's something like, the way I was brought up, like, I had a wool blanket growing up, and there's just something comforting about that. And knowing that, like, this dude makes more food for me. Good job, homie. And one day, when you stop making more food for me, you will be food for me. And then I'll turn you into a wool blanket. Like, that's super useful, super cool. And a lot of people, you see these people who are like anti-animal cruelty. There's a big movement of that against the homestead. It's like, you have no idea how good my animals have it.
Yeah.
Like, they have one bad day, and that's the day they die. And even that is super smooth. Like, it's super clean. They feel nothing. It's over before it started. And then short while later, they're in my belly. So, it's a good life. We've actually messed around with, at some point, starting Refuge Ranch, where's what we're going to call it. And I'm just tongue in cheek, but we're going to get all these rescue goats, right? Like, I have a rescue goat. I started a goat farm, and I just can't keep them anymore.
I have a rescue goat right now.
Okay, Billy, come on, Billy. All right. And our motto is going to be just one bad day. And that bad day will be when that goat gets an AK-47 gunshot and accidentally gets set on fire. And you have to figure out how to keep the goat alive for the next 72 hours. And after you keep your goat alive for the next 72 hours, we'll cook him and eat him at graduation. So I'm sure PETA's going to love that. Probably not. But
they call that a live tissue lab.
Exactly.
And they used to do that on on the amphib base, and you would have huge protests where you couldn't even get into the island because of it. So they changed the name and concealed it a lot better.
Yeah, Goat Lab. Goat Lab's not a thing anymore, but
it's a thing some places.
It's definitely still a thing. It just went underground. But yeah, you know, one bad day. That's it. RefugeRanch.com. Check it out. Sign up today.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say bring them and donate them, and then we'll just process them to meat.
Well, that's one bad day.
Yeah, people worried about your animals, man. Mind your own fucking business, number one. Number two, while you're worried about my animals, why don't you go help some kid? I'm sure that you know of some kid that needs assistance in something. Worry about a child and not my animals.
Ask yourself how that animal is going to die if it is not part of a homestead. That's the other thing. How is that goat or sheep or chicken going? Have you ever watched what happens when a raccoon kills a chicken? It's not fast. Have you ever watched what happens when a coyote gets a deer? That's your goat in the wild with the coyotes. Or it'll break a bone and lay on the ground, or get hit by a car and lay on the ground, or get a terrible disease and waste away. It's not usually a fast death for animals naturally. And that's something that nobody wants to talk about. That, and they are not wrong. How we handle animals in the CAFOs is terrible.
Agreed.
It's disgusting. It's a toxic nightmare for the environment, and it's horrible to the animals. And that is why homesteaders should be empowered to do what we're doing, because we're not doing that. But it's easier to go after the smaller groups than the big CAFOs.
So somebody had asked why sheep, right? And I want to build soil. I need that cloven hoof. I need that animal's hoof, and I need the rumen, and I need the way it processes grass. I had goats. Goats don't do what you want to do. They want to be where you don't want them to be. Sheep are easier controllable, and I can put them, I have them in a tractor. It's 10 by 20. We move it a couple times a day. They eat and fertilize the grass. I don't have enough property to have cows. I could have 2 or 3 cows here. I can't grow enough grass to feed them, and I have to supplement feed them. Goats and sheep, if you have grass that is snowed on or iced on, a goat and a sheep will move that ice or snow and eat. A cow can't do that, and a horse can't do that. It only noses in, and it gets no feed. So you have to, again, supplement feed them. So my 2 options, and I could do pigs, but pigs will destroy the area. I don't want pigs. And so I'm down to goats or sheep. I had 23 goats. We gave them away. Now we're on to sheep. So it's an entire system. If you look up regenerative agriculture, if you look up farming and building soil, you will see that those are kind of your options.
I just would like to say I thought I had plucked my chin enough, but apparently I have an awesome beard. So thank you. I will get on that right after this live stream.
I was thinking next time you should get a fake beard and just wear that.
Like an Abraham Lincoln one.
Yeah, just fit in, just to be one of the guys.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I have like 8 to 10 foot tall grass growing in our front pasture where we had our sheep before we moved them out to the hayfield. And we honestly kept them in there too long. And they was like, we got to move them, man. We're down to dirt in that field. And it kind of pissed me off. I was mad at myself that we didn't move them sooner, that it got to that point. It's like, boy, I hope something grows back. Even with this horrendous year of growing that we've had, I've got 8 to 10 foot tall stuff growing in that field where they were at. It's incredible. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close the gate on the sheep pen, open the gate on the cow pen, and let the cows run in there and eat all the stuff that grew up because the sheep were there, while the sheep are in the back 40 plowing the hayfield back there. And it's a regenerative system. It grows its own food, and that's the whole point. People ask us all the time, like, what are your chickens going to eat when you can't go to the feed store? Like, I don't feed them now. Let them out. They feed themselves. They eat bugs and ticks and seeds and berries and whatever the cows knock out of their feed trough. Like, we completely quit feeding our chickens Like not even nothing, not a single grain is put out for the chickens. And I have more chickens now literally than I can count. We also my wife was big into incubating for a while. And that was cool. It's fun. Broody hens are a thing. Like they make more chickens. If you leave them alone, sheep will make more sheep. Cows will make more cows. Chickens will make more chickens. And as long as you're not processing them faster than they can replace themselves, non-issue, right? Like, and it almost becomes a feel.
Yeah, bees will make more bees
feel
too.
Like we have too many chickens.
Yep.
So I have a ram and 3
Chicken.
little ewes.
Yeah.
Is sheep poop hot or more like rabbit poop? I don't know the answer to that.
The answer to that is, I do. Does that help? You can put it straight on your garden, just like goat poop, just like rabbit poop.
I don't have the ability to collect it. We're moving these things constantly. There's not a pile of sheep poop. I mean, whereas the rabbits are in cages and the rabbits are constantly pooping in a row because I have so many rabbits, we just shovel it into a wheelbarrow or into a trailer, a little plastic trailer we have. But to get sheep shit, you're going to have to go out there and pick up little piles of sheep shit. Mm-hmm. I don't need to do that. I have the rabbits. The rabbits are more important because of the poop than because of the meat.
Yeah, here too.
What were you saying, Bear?
Hell, I don't know.
Okay.
I got pissed because the freaking internet cut out again.
Gotcha.
Here's a question. Here's an easy one for you, Bear.
I was going to smash my iPhone with it.
That's when you have, so building grass, back to building grass, right? When you have grass, you have roots under that grass, and those roots are drilling holes through there and building nutrients. So if I or Bear or anybody needed to ever put in a 100-foot couple rows of potatoes, that ground right there is going to be way more fertile than it was before the sun was cooking it when nothing grew there but what we call weeds. So if you've got the grass, you have fertility there. You could take that grass, chop it and drop it. You could burn it. You could just cut it, do whatever, and put in your rows of potatoes and corn the next year or whatever you needed to do.
Yeah, I just let the sheep spread their poop around the pasture on their own. It looks like Bear is frozen again.
That's what we're doing.
I was going to throw him this question. Been thinking about getting sheep. Do you have to have more than 1 or 2? Sheep are herd animals, so you need to have at least 2. They do not like being alone. Chickens don't like being alone. Ducks don't like being alone. Goats don't like being alone. These animals are... Ooh, there you are.
Well, hello.
Are you really with us? All right. Is your iPhone still in one piece, Bear?
Bear doesn't have Apple products.
I'm here, ? And it is ? Shit, I don't know.
Maybe if I do the screen that way, it'll work.
It's it's the solar flares and EMPs coupled with the warlock militia types. So,
hey, somebody wants to know, where in Oklahoma are you? I deliver tropical plants from Tulsa to Tulsa from Florida.
That's a great question, and the answer is no.
So Jose Rivera is actually a friend of mine. He's been a customer for a long time. He's been here probably 20 times. Good dude.
So Refuge Medical is, that's public information. You can go to the store, you can show up at the office, Refuge Medical. Do you have a storefront for Refuge Medical? Yes, you can go there.
Is it on the website?
Do you sell cannabis there? Do you have weed?
No, we don't. Actually, we don't have any weed there, which is why we have a sign that says, "Go away, we don't sell weed" on the front of the building. Because apparently in Oklahoma, if you have the word medical in your business, then everybody assumes that you're selling weed. So I told the staff, I was like, get a sign that literally says, "Go away, we don't sell weed." Hang it on the front of the building. And they're like, okay, we'll do that. Well, now it has turned into a tourist destination. Hundreds of times per week, we're getting tagged in social media posts of people who have driven by the building and taken pictures in front of it. Look at the sign. Go away. We don't sell weed. Okay, but I was serious. Go away.
We don't sell weed. Fish Sinker wants to know, anybody know about what a pawpaw tree is? If you are interested, go to the Living Free in Tennessee YouTube channel and look at the video that published today. Pawpaws are ripe right now in Tennessee. Yes, I know what a pawpaw tree is, and the fruits are like persimmons. If you harvest them from the tree before they're ripe, they taste like bitter chalk. And if you harvest them when they look like they're more than ripe, which is when they're ripe, they taste like a combination between pear and banana. They're delicious. So just answering that. And Bear's getting to the end of his time anyway with us. So I just wanted to give him a chance to promote something if he unsticks.
So I don't have any pawpaws, but I have a lot of figs, and those do well here. We're about to get a second crop off of our figs.
That's awesome. I took cuttings from your figs and they were doing okay, and then they weren't doing okay. So I still need to get
Why
figs.
do you think that is? What happened?
I don't know. Well, it was a little late in the spring for me to try to do cuttings, but I tried anyway. So my theory is it was a little too late in the spring. They weren't quite green enough, but we'll see. I'll try again next year. I have one fig tree in the holler at this point, so we'll try to keep that one alive. Bear, you're back.
I am, but I actually think I'm going to go because this connection's not working. So
why don't you shout out your links?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we wanted to hear from you.
Oh, okay.
How can we give you money?
Well, winning Powerball tickets are cool. RefugeMedical.com, handmade, made in America, guaranteed forever. Best first aid kits on the planet. We sell the pouches and the components that go inside of them. 51 lives saved to date. So it's not just like a good idea, fairy bullshit first aid kit made with Chinese garbage. It's like real life-saving equipment. Refuge training. If you don't know how to use that stuff, come to training. We'll teach you the fine art of how to not die. RefugeTraining.com. And then if you think that kids shouldn't be getting raped, GrindstoneMinistries.com. That there's ways to support us there and to follow us there and stay informed there. That helps us go out into the world and do what we do, which is rescue kids out of bad situations and then put them on the path towards restoration, rehabilitation. We've got a couple dozen people in our care right now that we pulled out of bad situations, and we're in the process of pulling more out right now. So our ministry is not about creating awareness. It's not about making nice Instagram posts. It's not about the messaging. It's about doing shit. And we do shit. And we're blessed that it's our job to go be the hands and feet of the Father and rescue the least of these and put a hurt on bad guys. That's what we're all about. So if you want to help us do that, that's at grindstoneministries.com. And I appreciate you all hanging out with me. I'm sorry for the bad connection. It's just what I got. So
thank you for being on. We had some good conversations. What do you got, John?
Tinfoil hat throughout there, HSA and FSA. So you can get money to use. His kits are eligible for that. You can use that money that will sit there and do nothing. You can use that towards those medical kits.
Very true. Thank you. Very true.
Yep.
All right, y'all. I'm going to bounce off of here. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. See you next time.
Later.
Okay, so I've got some questions to wrap up with, John, if you're okay with that.
Yep,
Josie says, is there a... Huh?
I saw some good ones in here.
Yeah, Josie says, is there a seed swap or seed library component to the Self-Reliance Festival?
There will be as soon as you show up and start it.
Right. Somebody needs to run that. At many of our events, there have been seed swaps because somebody's willing to run it. And the way they do that is they come, they say, we're doing it this time, this location. They bring their seeds and some Sharpies and maybe some seed packets. And people bring their other seeds and they just do exchanges. It's been a great way to get seeds. It's how I got my tromboncino squash this year. So, yeah, Josie, come do it. Next question. How do you explain a decades-long gap in your work history on a resume?
Give us some more. Is it because you were in prison? I mean, what are we worried about telling them? I went in, I came home from prison June 20th, and that day got served with divorce papers and a restraining order. To leave the halfway house, I was only allowed to leave the halfway house to work or look for a job. The next day, I got a job at a pizza place as a delivery driver. Had to walk in and say, hey, I've been in prison for 2 years. I am on federal probation. I don't have a driver's license. I don't have insurance. And I don't have, by the way, I don't have any identification as to who I am either. They gave me a job. I said, I will work for you till Wednesday. Give me till Wednesday to have my paperwork that you need. And if I don't produce it, I worked for you for free until Wednesday. Obviously, you can't have me as a driver. By the end of that week, I had 3 jobs as pizza delivery drivers at 3 restaurants working 80 hours a week. So why do you have that gap? I really don't know. I was able to go, hey, by the way, yeah, I was just in prison. I'm also drug tested. I'm a known commodity. I have a person over me. If I fuck this up, they will put me back in prison. And you can speak to my probation officer, basically take a chance on me. I said, I'm only going to work for you for 6 months. And maybe you don't tell them that. I'm only going to work for you for 6 months. But when I'm gone in 6 months, 2 years later, you're going to still be trying to get a hold of me to come back and work for you. I am literally going to be the best employee you have ever had. I guess it depends on how you sell it and why.
Yeah, I think as somebody who has employed people, it has not bothered me when there's a gap in work history. Depends on the kind of job you're going for. And the other thing is your network is much more important than your resume for getting a job, even, in the tech industry as an executive. The people who know you and know you do good work, the way you do that is you start getting out and meeting people. And if you need to volunteer at the Salvation Army for a while to start building network, do that. If you need to start going out to things to talk to people, volunteer with I don't know, those your local chamber of commerce or any of those things. You can do a lot of different things that get you to know people who are willing to take a chance on you. But if you're going for the kind of job where that gap really, really matters and you have that gap, you may need to build something different. And people keep asking where the Self-Reliance Festival is. It's in Camden, Tennessee, October 1st and 2nd. Lots of information at selfreliancefestival.com, including an FAQ that talks about camping and lodging and bringing animals on and children and all of those things.
We're doing a permaculture workshop the day before that. So the Friday before Saturday, Sunday is a permaculture workshop. It's day 2. We've already put in swales. We're going to plant those swales with the undergild and the trees. Why does that matter to you? Maybe it doesn't. But by going to that, you have access in a smaller group of people to all of those people who are going to be here presenting. So if you see somebody on that list, and there's a lot of them, names that you will recognize, and you want to talk to that person and have a conversation without 1,000 people around, or when 100 other people are trying to talk to that dude, that is your chance. You might not care any at all about permaculture, to have access and hang out, because that's what we do. In the evening, we hang out and just have conversations, and it is a great time, and you get to meet those people.
And we have music this time. I just got off the phone with Tess today. Tess Damona is going to be doing some stuff. I'm singing some songs over dinner, and we've got another band in, and I think it's just adding a little bit more creative to it. We've also got a spinning demo for sure. So somebody's going to be there showing us how to spin. I've got somebody talking to me about the next Self-Reliance Festival, teaching basic clothing maintenance with hand sewing and a sewing machine, which is something that we haven't talked about ever at Self-Reliance Festival yet. If you're there and can't replenish your socks and you get a hole in your sock, do you know what to do? Do you know how to fix the waistband of your jeans? Do you know how to sew that pocket back on? What do you do if you get a hole at the knee? There's a lot of those things we don't have to do anymore because clothes are so cheap. But what happens when clothes aren't cheap?
And all you guys stocking up clothes, what you don't realize is if you've put away 10 years of underwear, you might want to pull some of them underwear you put out 5 years away because the elastic's dead in them. Rubber, and it's designed. It's obsolescence. Pull out some of them brand new tennis shoes you've had in the attic or wherever. The glue's no longer adhere. It's on purpose.
Yeah. My hiking boots lasted 10 years last round, and it was the rubber that started flaking out. I was not happy. But, because I'm that person who wants my hiking boots to last 20 years once they've been broken. And Josie, when When you all choose where to relocate, how do you narrow it down? What are some good ways to choose friendly and safe areas?
You're never going to know until you go there yourself. Pick some areas, go vacation there. If you love it in the winter, you might hate it in the summer. We have a very small town here. The whole county is about 3,500 people. We have a local Facebook group, and there's constantly people, hey, I'm moving here. Is this a good place? And people will tell you, yes, it's an awesome place. And then 20 people will go, no, worst crime, don't come here. And you're not going to know until you move someplace, you know somebody. If that's not an option, I mean, Tennessee is awesome. I moved here because Tactical Response is here. And when I was standing in the garden center at Walmart talking to James Yeager, I'm like, I need to get out of California. He said, come here. I go, don't think I won't come there. He goes, you won't. I dare you to. And 30 days later, we moved here. We flew out here that weekend. But I had somebody here, kind of. While they were here, when we went to look for a place to live, there was nothing here. Like, it's not there. We still have the best places to live have people who don't use that evil cell phone. They're not on that internet, right? So you have to get on the ground to find what's really there. And then you really have to take and kind of make it yourself. Like, what we have here started as a gravel pit. Like, there was nothing here. This building had no copper, had no electric, had nothing in it. We bought a shell with raw, like, rock and gravel and a bunch of, thorn bushes.
You're a testament to what permaculture can do to a rock gravel pit.
Yeah.
You've got, like, the things John has growing on his property. He brought in animals and wood chips and all these other things. He has made that happen on his land. It's impressive. It's worth coming just to see that.
Do you have a link to the Tennessee Festival? It is literally selfreliancefestival.com.
Yes. And, back to the relocation question. John's right on. Get out and start going places. The reason I'm in Tennessee is I came here to help somebody start a small nonprofit in Nashville. I expected to be here for a total of 6 months and go back to Oregon. I was already uncomfortable in Oregon 15 years ago or 16 years ago. And when I came out here, the culture was so much more welcoming and open and willing to accept differences compared to Oregon, that I realized I wanted to move. And 3 months later moved here permanently. And it was entirely, I would have never thought Tennessee was even on the list of possibilities based on the marketing around what Tennessee is like in other parts of the country. So being here really helped me, like, tune into I'm going to call it the vibe of what it's like here. And I loved it. It was like Oregon was before Oregon got ruined. So that's how I got here. If I hadn't come here in person, I probably would have relocated to Idaho on paper.
Yep, that's where I thought I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Does it snow in Tennessee? Yes, it does sometimes. It also ices. You can also get to the East Tennessee where you get a lot more snow if you really want that white Christmas. Yes, Justin Hill, this is the same building where we were recycling all the reclaimed lumber. It was a cowboy bar. There was a nightclub. Hair bands, Twisted Sister and shit would play in here on the way into Nashville. A lot of country acts and stuff played here through the years.
Yep.
When we got it, it was trashed. We bought it. The doors were welded shut. There was poop all over the floor, mattresses, needles. It was a mess. People had broken open bags of Quikrete concrete on the carpet. I mean, it was literally just vandalism.
Okay, I have the opportunity to relocate. I've been offered a job. Housing prices are much higher there, and my house is almost paid off in the city. How do you balance debt versus getting out of the city?
You probably better answer that. That's not.
Okay, so it's a personal choice at that point. I would look at the big picture. Does getting to a new location balance out in the aggregate when you add the job to it and what it's going to cost you to relocate and to acquire a place to live? Can you simplify your life and end up in something that is smaller than what you're in now? Or is there a way, does it work for you to buy the land and live in a camper? I just met somebody who has lived in a camper for the last year and she's on a piece of land. She said it was just important for me to get the land first. And now she's building a relatively small home, 800 square feet, I think. That's easier to heat. That's easier to clean, as long as you don't overfill it with stuff. So really look at, like, is it really more expensive? I know housing is at a peak too. So it's really a personal decision. And the only way you can make it is by putting all your needs, your wants, your desires on one column, looking at those areas, look at the income difference of the job you're getting, cost of living where you are, and decide what are my real priorities, and then make your decision. And what is the downside of staying where you are now? That's the other part.
My take is just do it. Burn the boats. Make it so you can't even go back.
That's usually John's take.
I'm not going to save up $100,000 to do something. We're going to do it and then figure out how to make it work. I'm going to overcommit myself so greatly that I literally have no option but to not sleep and work and figure out how to make money. Most people don't do that. Like, if you came to a seminar I was putting on, it's not for most people, because if you were going to do what I'm going to tell you to do, you would probably already be doing it and you wouldn't be paying me for the advice of it. But some people, and those are usually the people that employ a lot of other people. I would also say, if you do relocate, start looking for another job, start looking for a side hustle, even though you have that job, right? And what's the contract? If they move you in, how long do you have to work for them? If it's 3 years and you decide I don't want to work here anymore, do you have to pay back that $80,000 or $100,000 relocation that they paid? Because that's in a lot of those contracts, right? So figure out some other way to make money doing what you love to do. And what I've recently been saying for the last couple of years is you only need 1,000 true fans, 1,000 followers. There are people that pay people to do things on the internet that they want to watch that is absolutely disgusting. There's people that will pay to listen to Asian girls chew ice cubes. So whatever you're doing, there is an audience for it. You could just talk about how great GoPros are, right? Or how I like these radios, or this nasal spray. You could do a whole show on just what nasal spray is better for you and which one works better and how to get off nasal spray. Like, there is a consumer for every piece of content. And if you can build that to 1,000 people, how can you get 1,000 people to give you $1 a week? And then how can you scale that $1 a week from 1,000 people to a value of $5 a week? And once you have 1,000 people, now we can sell branded merchandise, right? Stuff I don't actually have to build, but there's a profit on. So everything's doable. You just have to look at that job you're taking. If you want freedom, that job you're taking is just a stepping stone to help you get to a better place.
Also true. The bigger question is, are my bees still swarming? So the bees swarm today. If anybody needs a swarm of bees, it's a bit late in the season for them to build up, but my bees are very prolific. Come on out and get them, because I'm not, just for the record. I am now allergic to bee stings, and I'm not going to expose myself to that, although most usually swarming bees do not sting. All right. Well, John, anything you want to say before we sign off?
I'm on Instagram and I'm on TikTok. That's where we're most active. You'll see new products that we did. Like, we just did a journal cover, composition book cover yesterday. We're working on some covert, low profile chest rigs. You will see those on TikTok or Instagram. I don't use that evil. Then you won't get one. They'll be sold before they ever go out. I have a text app and I have an email app. You can join both of those off of soetacticalgear.com, which is where you have to go to buy the product anyways. And I do a live video almost every night at 9 o'clock on YouTube. And we can have a conversation about literally anything that you want to talk about.
We talked about Gorbachev last night, didn't we? For
I didn't
37 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't know he had passed.
I only knew it because I was on a radio show and it was reporting on the news before I got on last night. So if you want to check that out, I was on the TNT network in Australia last night. That was kind of fun.
Cool.
Hadn't done live radio in about a decade. So it's like, you have to remember to not make too much background noise, but it all worked out. Guys, I am doing a presentation at the Exit and Build Land Summit Homesteading on a Budget workshop on Saturday, if you want to check that out. Also, definitely, if you're interested in VIP tickets for the Self-Reliance Festival, they're $450. You get a t-shirt. You get to come to the VIP dinner The VIP dinner is for the speakers and the people who buy the VIP tickets and some of our sponsors. So it's a smaller group. We'll be sitting down together, eating a fantastic meal. You also get a parking pass for the compound, but we're almost out of those tickets. Those are at selfreliancefestival.com. You're going to want to grab those while you can, if that's what you want. If you've already bought your ticket and you're like, dang it, there is an option to upgrade your ticket. So if you've already bought your ticket, want a VIP ticket, just go to the VIP ticket link at selfreliancefestival.com, click on tickets in the upper right, and then just choose that it's an upgrade. We can cross-check that, no problem at all.
Well, what's the not VIP price? Because
the not VIP price is $75, which is a steal of a deal for this 2-day festival. If you check out all the speakers who are going to be there, all the demos that are happening, it's a great way to meet people, but we have some awesome presentations coming up at this one too. In fact, Doc Barry's doing more of a workshop approach on his this time. So, don't forget the keto challenge too. If you're just hearing this now, we have a keto challenge out between now and Self-Reliance Festival. And just, you don't have to tell us what weight you started at, what you ended at, but tell us how much you lost by going keto. And if today's the first time you heard it, say, I started on this date and I lost this many pounds. We've got a whole group of people coming who are like, I got to lose weight. And so we're holding each other accountable. If I look fatter at Self-Reliance Festival than I did at the last one, I have failed. So it's actually a really great accountability network. And I am actually putting up a blog at selfreliancefestival.com with a form where you can report your weekly update if you want to via email to us.
Right on.
Awesome. Guys, we'll see you next week. Next week is a Jack Spirko week on Tuesday, and I think we're doing a Wednesday as well next week.
And I'll see you guys tonight at 9 on the SOE YouTube channel.
Later.